I often get asked to do a video about the pruning of pine candles because many people are confused as to what they actually need to do to them. There is of course a lot of literature on it and a lot of people have explained it, but I will explain what I understand to be the pruning of pine candles. You must be wondering why I'm showing you this picture of this beautiful Deshojo maple. And a lot of maples in this tunnel. I'm showing it for a very good reason. I'm showing it because look at this Deshojo. This new shoot is about 12 inches long, and this new shoot, you can still see that the wood is still soft, has grown in the last 3 weeks. So why am I showing you this? It's because we are talking about new shoots. Candles are no different. Candles are just new shoots. A lot of people get confused because they look like these spiked things, and that's why they're called candles. They don't have any resemblance to the deciduous trees when they come into leaf. So what are candles? They are nothing but the new shoots which will become branches if left to their own devices. Now this candle, which is about nearly 4 inches long, has been left to grow, and that has only grown in the last 2 weeks. Can you imagine that? If I were to leave it, it would become another foot long. So what have you got to do? This is a coconut pine, one of those pines with very, very short needles. And if I want to continue keeping it in this conical shape, I have to do something to these long shoots. Although we call them candles, they are, to all intents and purposes, long shoots. So if you don't want to grow it longer, just take it all off. Some people say you should take half off, only pinch the middle one and leave the side ones. But just take the middle one, the strongest one, out completely, and the side ones a bit shorter. So this is what I've been doing. As I say, a lot of it is not rocket science. I don't know why people try and make it so complicated. I think a lot of people make it complicated to show how clever they are. There is a science behind it, but there's no need to make it complicated. So again, this is another coconut pine. This is a massive tree, absolutely massive tree. That's about 4'6" or 5 foot tall. Large pine, very large pine. And again, every year what I do, I just take the candles off. But sometimes it's not sufficient just to take the candles off. You might even need to take an old twig off like that. Like that. You see there are lots of green shoots underneath. So as long as you leave some green, it will bud back. Now what do I mean by bud back? So if you take those candles out there, it will shoot further back into the branch. So that is what we call bud back. If you look at any of these pines here, look at this one here. You see these, if I can show the scissors there. See these new shoots here. This is budding back from pruning the ends. If you take the ends off, it'll force it to go further back into the branch. So don't worry about them. And if the candles are too long, just prune the whole thing off. You can even prune the old shoot off. And of course, if you see the cones, some people like seeing the cones. I don't believe that the cones take away energy. I also heard a Japanese teacher in this country say that when a pine sets cones, it's a sign that the tree is being stressed and it's about to die. I don't know where they found this sort of theory. I think that is absolute balderdash. So there's no rocket science behind it. Just prune them back. Prune the candles if you wish to, but you can also prune the woody shoots if you wish to. So that's how you deal with these new candles. I will look at some other trees and show you that I'm not kidding. That was a kokono, Japanese 5-needle pine. This is the more ordinary Japanese white pine. This is a really old tree. This, I was told, is nearly 100-year-old. I've had it about 25 years. And you see the candles are just emerging on this. Usually these candles are formed in clumps of 3, 4 or 5. Can you see each of these? That one has got 3. Some of them have 5. So if you don't want it to spoil the shape, just take the entire candle off, or sometimes you need to go into wood to take that off. See, Now coming back to this coconut, you see these long shoots here. That's much too long. So I would cut it back to there. I'm not pruning the candle. I'm not even pruning the candle here. I'm taking it right back there just to maintain the shape. But as long as there's green there, it's perfectly all right to do that. And that's how you form the pad. Of course, if you want to be really meticulous, all these shoots have to be wired. That's if you want to do that. Not many people are bothered about doing it. As long as the pad looks reasonable, that's all you need to do. I'm holding the camera in one hand and pruning with the other hand. See, that one is popping up there. I'm not just removing the candle, I'm going to remove the whole stem. But because there's green, it will bud further back. So this is the coconut pine. I will now move on to some other pines to show you. Again, a huge pine, about 4'6" tall. And look at it, how vigorous it is. And these red colored little globules are in fact the flowers that are about to open. When they open, they scatter a lot of pollen. So again, just prune back and you should be okay. I'm going to get someone to hold the camera in a minute so I can show you more closely how to deal with it. So this one is covered in these flowering shoots and they scatter the pollen, but they will then pollinate the dormant cones. I'd like to show you this pine because this is the golden Scots pine. It's not a sick pine. The variety is Pinus sylvestris aurea. So it's got these gold colored shoots, a very rare pine indeed. And if I can show you what a Bouvernensis looks like, the Bouvernensis has got really short needles. See, compared to a scissors, you see how short the needles are. The needles are in fact no more than ½ an inch long. And if you grow it really well, the needles can become as small as the picea needles. So again, if you don't want it too long, you don't just prune the candles, you have to prune back into the shoot, into the green. But leave a bit of the green shoot and it should be okay. Just showing you some of the other pines. Some of them are a bit late in producing candles. So this one hasn't got any signs of candles yet, but it will come. Now this is a Scots pine, a very old one, but you see how small the candles are on this. And in fact on this one, there's only one candle on each shoot, which is quite unusual. These 5-needle pine that come from Japan, they're like this. And these are the long candles which are shooting. So if you don't want the shape to be spoiled, like on this tree, you see there are candles here. There are in fact 5 candles from that single point. 5 candles. But you don't just remove the big one, because if you leave the other ones, they will become branches in turn and they will spoil the shape. So in this instance, I'll cut it back to there. I'm cutting last year's shoot off. There's still some candles there. So there are plenty of candles to create bud back. So again, don't be too fastidious. Just prune it back to shape and it should be okay. Not rocket science. I know some people are going to slate me, but this is my way of doing it. Remember, basic horticultural principles is all you need. So this one is very strong. You look at the flowers and the cones which are coming on this tree. That one is losing its shape. It can either be rewired or reshaped. So just think of the candles as new shoots. Now black pines are slightly different. They are more vigorous. And black pine candles can be as long as 6 or 12 inches long, especially when grown in the ground. This one is about 5 inches long. So if I don't want that to grow too long, I cut everything off like that, and hopefully it'll bud back further. So all this density has come from pruning the ends off. Let me move on to that very old black pine that I have. I'm about to restyle it one of these days, but this ancient tree is the one that came from Japan in 1962. So you see how prolific the candles are. I've already removed some candles here. That was a candle that I've chopped off. There are more candles. So by removing them, it will hopefully bud back further into the trunk. So as I say, I've already moved some of the bigger ones. If I don't want that to get too long, I just cut them off, either half or 2/3 of the candle, like this one. I'm going to cut 2/3 of the candle off, like that. So always remember that pine candles are no more than shoot extensions of new growth. No different from the new growth that you find on junipers or like the new growth on piceas. You see, the new shoots. In fact, these could be considered to be candles for want of a better word. But the point I'm trying to make is that the candles on pines are the new shoots. That's a mugo pine, one of our homemade mugo pines. You deal with them in exactly the same way. That's one of our own homemade Japanese 5-needle pine, grown from seed. So this is a cedar tree, new shoots. So if it was a pine, you would be calling them candles. So I hope that has explained to you how to deal with candles. Not rocket science, as we say. I hate to keep repeating it, but I hope you get the idea that they are not that difficult to handle. There's no special treatment needed. As long as your pine is strong, you can prune them as hard as you like. Well, I've had a very long day because in between the showers we've had so much rain, and you know, they're almost like storms at times. And in between the storms, I was running inside the house and coming back out again. So all these plants and trimmings are covered in rain. But I didn't finish the video, so let me carry on again. Just to reinforce what I was telling you about the process of candle pinching, let me look at something quite different. Now this one here, this is a seedling Scots pine. This seedling Scots pine is 2 going on 3 years old. So the bottom part is the first year, and these long candles, just 2 of them from this plant, has grown, you won't believe it, in the last 2 weeks. In 2 weeks it has become more than 6 inches tall. Now, if we didn't do anything to it, it would become a stem, it would become a trunk like this part, and so it would grow taller. So I can make this grow taller. If I don't want it to grow anymore, I can, with the secateurs, just cut the tip off and the shoot would grow up to there. Just to show you how pines do bud back, look at these young shoots from the hard wood. Right from the woody stem, these new candles have emerged. And they've emerged not as a cluster, but just as individual candles. So this is not what many people expect from a pine, but this is how they work. And no one actually pinched the candle the previous year. It is just how pines grow. To show you that that's not a fluke, this is another one. Now this is another seedling pine, 2 years old, going on 3 years. Putting out on the side. Now these are the candles. So how strange, look at it from here. Now this pine has got at the tip, let me just count it, it's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 candles. 9 candles. So from that point you're going to get 9 branches growing out. So if I did nothing, you will get like a radial spoke of a wheel with 9 branches growing from there. And again from the woody stem, look at how these young shoots or candles have grown from the old wood. Not from the tip, but from the wood itself. So this is what we call bud break from the old wood. So this is something worth showing you. This is lying on its side. I haven't tilted the camera. It's just that it's easier to film this way. Now let me walk around the nursery and show you various aspects of these pines. Let me just show you some 5-needle pines, Goyomatsu. Some people call it the white pine. Now this particular one, this I'm growing as a large garden tree. It's about 5 foot tall. See, as tall as the tunnel. And look at that cluster of needles at the top there. So, can you see this branching at the top? Over the years, I didn't cut any of it, so it keeps forming more and more shoots. And if I don't cut it, this tree will grow another foot. And this is how I developed this pine, getting it bigger and bigger and bigger. But should I want to stop it at any point, I can, if I want to, just stop it and not let it get bigger. But I'm wanting to grow it into a tall tree, so I'm not going to do anything to it. I'll just let it grow tall and see what happens. But that coconut pine that I showed you, that I will have to take the candles off. So that one, I'm just going to shear the tops of those candles. You can see how those long shoots, I can't reach it, it's so tall. Like that, I can even cut the wood there. Just like doing a hedge trimming job. So all those long shoots will be trimmed off. So this is another one here. You see, I can just trim it there. So no candle pinching. If I wanted to, can you imagine if you were to take every single candle off? There must be more than 3,000 or 4,000 candles on this tree alone. That's a big tree. So candle pinching is taking things to very ridiculous lengths. Just shear them. Just go around and shear it off. Sorry about this. It may appear a bit crude, but this is the fact of life. No sophistication needed. We are not going to remove one single candle at a time. It's not a case of just pinching and removing each candle. I would just shear them off. So this tree again is another of our 5-needle pines that we've been growing. See, even we grow some of our garden trees. So it's just been grown tall to become a garden tree. And then when the time is right, I will create the branch structure. There's another one which has got more shape. So that's the size of the greenhouse, just to show you I'm not cheating. So that pine is about 4.5 foot tall. So there you are. You see the beautiful candle structure here. And these beautiful flowers which are coming on the pine. They will disperse pollen. So I will just go around and do this. Please forgive me because I'm holding the camera in one hand and videoing with the other. I rather do this video like this rather than not have any video at all. But should I find someone to help me tomorrow, I will do some more to show you. Like that one, I'm just going to cut all that off. Cut all that off. So this rounded shape has simply been created by just going around and taking the tips out. Simple as that. Now mind you, this is really a rough and ready tree. We are growing it almost as a garden tree. Now if I wanted this to become a long branch, I would leave it alone or just take the tip out. But if I didn't want the thing to grow long, I'd take it off completely. Let me now show you if the light is good enough. This is a tree that has been wired and shaped. And this one, there are very few candles. See, like this one, there's only one candle from this particular tip of the shoot. So if I want bud back further there, I will just remove that one like that. like that. So again, this one I can just remove that, and then you get bud back further into the wood. This video isn't finished yet. I'm flitting from tree to tree, but every time I talk and show you a little process, you're going to learn from it. To show you that it's quite late in the evening, the birds are beginning to sing. It's gone 8 o'clock in the evening and it's the middle of May, so the days are getting longer. And this is my large Bouverensis pine, multi-trunk pine. It's got about 9 trunks growing from the base. And this has been developed since 1990 when I made the pond. And it's a large garden tree. You may have seen me prune it. Look at the trunk, look at the trunk. It is absolutely massive at the base. But this tree is shaped simply by pruning the candles and the branches. I usually prune my pines once every other year. So this was pruned very hard last year, so I'm not going to prune it again too hard this year. But if I want to keep this tree in shape, I will simply shear off all the candles. So this bunch of candles, there are 5 candles there. I will just take the tip off like that, and that's how I keep this branch tight and small. If I was not holding the camera with one hand, I would be working much faster. That's another one. All these candles I'm going to cut off like that. And then you'll get bud back further down, and that's how I create the pads. This tree of course is not wired, it's simply shaped by pruning. Sometimes, you know, if I don't want that branch, I take that whole branch off. And if that is growing tall, this was a candle last year, it's become a branch, I can take that off. So if I don't want that to become a branch, I cut that off. So that's how we do it. So this tree will take me, I would say, a good 2 or 3 hours to prune all the candles back, because I don't want the tree to grow too tall. Now in the distance there, across the water, there are those 4 big pines. I'm just going to walk across there and show you it. When I walk there, I will show it to you again. Although I got distracted on the way, it's all still relevant. This is another large 5-needle pine garden tree that I purchased from Japan about 30 years ago, and it's become so big. It's about 8 foot tall. 8 foot tall. That is a 300-liter pot. Look at that tree. 8 foot in height. And it's full of candles, and those candles are going to be cut back to keep the pads short and tight. Now I might as well keep the camera running. I don't want to switch it off. I can hear these lovely birds singing, so let's walk across. The bird song is so beautiful, I have to keep myself quiet. Got distracted along the way. These are these lovely large flowers from this large magnolia tree. This is Magnolia longifolia. And it's just coming into bloom. I can't see what bird this is. There you are, the sun is setting. It's a lovely distraction, don't you think? Another distraction, those lovely aircraft flying to Gatwick Airport. All part of life. Right, so much for the distraction. Let me walk to this great big pine. This pine is now, I would say, 15 foot tall. When I planted it back in 1990, when I made the garden, it was only like 1 meter tall, 3 foot. So it's grown 5 times in height in 30 years. And I don't want it to become a tall tree, so I'm going to severely prune it. That will be the subject of another video next month in June. But I brought you here to show you the candles. These pines that grow vigorously in the ground, sometimes the candles can be a foot long, that means 30 centimeter long. They have yet to grow. Some of these candles are already about 6 inches long, like that. Look at this clutch of candles. There are, again, like six candles on this. There are 5 small ones and a big central one. So if I did nothing, they will become branches. Like this shoot here, this shoot here was a candle last year. So I didn't do anything, so it grew long like that. But I can cut it right back like that. I will show you the pruning of this tree at a later stage. I brought you here just to show you how long these candles grow. So if you didn't want the branch to grow longer, you simply remove everything. Simply remove everything. But that is not what I'm going to do to this tree. It's just showing a point of principle about how vigorous these candles are. So there's another tree. There are 4 trees altogether. So the new growth is rather pretty. The soft green, all pointing up to the sky. All pointing up to the sky. So again, to reinforce, see if this branch, for example, has got 3 shoots. So last year there were 3 candles, and those 3 candles were not pruned, so they became 3 long branches. Now if I don't prune off those 5 candles from that tip, it'll become 5 big branches. In case you've never heard the joke, there was a comedian on television, I think, see, 4 candles. He went into a shop and says, "Can I have 4 candles?" And the assistant brought out a fork handle, not 4 candles. I can't tell the joke very well, but there you are, 4 candles. You sometimes get a situation where you get 4 candles. The number of candles at the tip of a branch vary considerably, but I find that with Scots pine, I usually find 5 candles forming a clutch. Talking of 4 candles, this is a situation, no, this is 3 candles. It's 3, 5, sometimes 2, sometimes 1. Very seldom do you get 4. So all these 4 trees have got an abundance of candles, and this is what you've got to deal with. When you think that some of these thick trunks and stems, can you imagine that was a candle at one stage, but the candle was not pinched, it became the trunk of a tree. So I hope this long lecture about candles and how you deal with them will give you some ideas to what it is all about. I will now walk back into the nursery because I've got some other varieties of pines. There are Mugo pines which are also different, so I'm going to walk into there. So I'm going to switch the camera off and walk back into the nursery. So I'm back in the nursery and I'm going to show you these Mugo pines that we sell for people to make bonsai. So this variety is Mugo gnome. What a compact little tree, and look at all these candles which are growing. If I put it on the paving, you will get a better idea as to what this thing looks like. So you can see it is covered in new candles, and if we did nothing to it, this tree would get bigger and bigger. So again, to reinforce, that central stem was a candle last year, and these 3 branches, I think there are 3, were also candles. So these 4 were candles last year and they were not pruned, so they became a long branch. Now if we did nothing to this, at the tip here, look at this one. This has got 3 to 5, 6 candles. 6 candles from that one point. If I did nothing, they'll become a big bush. So this tree will become a huge bushy tree. But if I wanted to make a bonsai this size, I would probably only take a few of them off and then let the central shoot grow and maybe take the tip off to get control of the length of the tree. So if I didn't want this tree to grow too long, I would just take all of those off. And when it develops more, I can then select which of those branches I take off. So keeping it within bounds, as it were, not letting it get too big, just shear them all off. Don't remove it completely. You can remove it completely, but by removing it completely, you will get more bud back in the old wood here, in the old wood there. So that is how you would do these trees. I haven't finished this video yet because I'm going to show you how some of the more developed trees are dealt with when the candles break. But looking around the nursery, we have hundreds of pines, but it's amazing how they all produce candles at different times of the spring. Some of them haven't started showing candles yet. This is a very ancient old 5-needle pine that I got from Japan in 2007, and it's become bushy mainly by leaving all these candles to grow. So it's become a very, very bushy tree. I want it to be a bushy tree because once I have lots of strong growth, I will then selectively choose the branches to wire. So hopefully tomorrow when I have staff around, I will get them to hold the camera while I show you in more detail. But nothing lost in me talking about these things because it's all a long learning process. The more I talk, the more it gets ingrained into your mind. Today is another day. It's the 13th of May. And as you can see, I have a new Hawaiian shirt, a gift from one of my colleagues, Teemill. Lovely Hawaiian shirt with all these lovely motifs. I don't know what I'll do with all these shirts. I have far too many. I'll auction them one day. So I'm continuing with this video I've been doing about pine candles and how to deal with pine candles. The last few days I've been videoing, holding the camera with one hand and trying to trim with my left hand or pinch the needles with the left hand. So it was a struggle, but I hope you get enough information from it. You may have been wondering, the videos I've been doing seem to be a bit blasé, a bit casual, you just snip all the candles off and couldn't care less. But what are the situations when you have to really look at each tree? And that is when you come across these really good fine specimen trees, which I will show you in a minute. That's when you have to look at each candle carefully. I'm not looking at hundreds of pines where you just go through and shear all the candles off. But this is my very famous black pine, which I've already shown you. And over the years, I've been trying to resuscitate it or get it into better health. And hence I've left it unchecked in a manner of speaking, because I want to change the shape and grow to a bigger tree. Now, if you come closer to this place, I will show you how I've been getting bud back. When we talk of bud back, people don't really understand what I mean. See, all these young shoots in the old wood has come from dealing with the candles in a certain way. If you do it in a certain way, you will get bud back, because I want the pads to be more evenly spread throughout the length of the branch. So there is bud back there. All these young shoots are bud back, and I have already sheared some of these candles. I've just simply sheared it because I don't want the tree to go too long, and by doing that I hope I will get more of these shoots to develop like that, bud back into the stem. So that is how it would do that. So now I'll look at this one now. Now this one is an individual candle. I don't want to get it extended and make a long branch, so I will take probably halfway house, compromise, take 2/3 of it off. Like this one has grown too much. Probably I don't need it extending, so I take that off. So this is where you do look at each individual candle. Some people spend hours just thinking, shall I remove that candle or shall I not? So this is a situation where you actually have to consider which candles to take out and which not to take out. Like that one, you see this is a new candle from one of the bud bags of last year. I didn't prune it last year, so already you can see it made more than an inch growth. But if I don't want it to extend and become a long branch, I will again halfway house take half the candle off. So this is how I've already been doing that, you see. But I don't want those subsidiary shoots, secondary and tertiary shoots to go too long, so I take it off, so I create more bud bag there. So I go through each of these pads and look at the situation and see what is needed. So again, this is very dense. I want more bud bag. So again, you see I've already taken half of that out. I'll probably take half of that out. And this already been taken out. Some of these have been taken out. This has been taken out. This is a pad here. You see, look at this pad. You see there is bud bag there. You see the bud bag over here? The bud bag is happening here. So that has come from taking the candles out. Now because I don't want this long shoot to become a long branch, again I will take 3/4 of it out. That I'll also take out. This is a single candle, but there's a small dormant one there. Again I will take 3/4 of that out. So I go through each of these. You literally have to consider each particular candle to see what the situation is like. Again, because this, if it were left to become long, becomes too long and spoil the shape, again I'll take half of it out. So you go through the entire tree and think in each particular situation what you need to do. See, like if you look at this one here, now this is a very long branch. Now why has it become long? Because probably at some stage I didn't take the candle out from there. So that subsidiary shoot has become long. I had overlooked doing that. So because there's some buds there, I can take the entire thing out, like so, all that out. Now there's clearly too much going on there, far too much going on there. And because there are other candles, I can take that out completely. So I look at each candle and see what I need to do to it. See, like that, there's a whole clutch of candles. I don't want it getting long, so certainly at least half of it out. And you can see some bud back is happening there. Bud back is happening here. So this whole tree, I've literally go through each candle. This is where you look at each candle and consider whether it needs it or not. This tree, I promise you, with the help of Kevin, I'm going to get him to see if he has got any new thoughts, and we might restyle that tree. Now let's move on to another very important tree over there. And that tree, I will show you what we do. By the way, these tools I use for taking the candles are these scissors. Although they're not exactly the long handle twig shears, I prefer this because everyone is different. You know, they've got different shaped hands. This is a small scissors, this is a big one. But this is by far my favorite pair of pruning scissors for twigs. Now let's look at this famous Scots pine. This is a newly acquired tree. It's an absolutely gorgeous tree and it's meticulously groomed. If we home in on it, you see the candles are beginning to form at each of these points. And in fact, there are some flower buds at the end of the candles. I suppose it's such an old tree that some of the candles are covered in these flower buds. In a few weeks' time, they will be bursting open and there'll be a lot of pollen. Not all of them. These have just simple straight candles. What is so different about this pine? This was a Scots pine, or Pinus sylvestris from Spain. It is different from the Pinus sylvestris you get in the UK. Now, if you look at it, at the end of each tip, there is no cluster of 4 or 5 candles. There is just one candle. And this is very fortuitous in a way, because you don't have the problem of deciding what to do, how many of the candles to remove, how many to leave. Now because there is one, I will leave it to grow for now. If it starts spoiling the shape, I will take the tip off, but I'm going to leave it to grow for a while. All these I'm going to leave it to grow. I'm not going to do anything. So just because the candles are coming, you've got to assess each situation on its merits and decide whether it needs it or not. I'm going to look at it at a later date in 2 or 3 weeks' time to see if it needs it. But this certainly needs nothing doing to it. So don't be disappointed if I just looked at this tree and said, no, there's nothing that needs to do to this tree. I very often get customers who come to the nursery and they bring a tree to me and they say, please repot this tree, please repot this tree. Now it's like going to the doctor and you're fit and healthy, and if you ask the doctor, please operate on me, he'll send you away. So you might be disappointed, but the doctor knows what he's doing. So exactly the same thing here. If a tree is perfectly healthy, you do nothing to it. I don't know why people keep insisting on taking the tree out, repotting, cut the roots, do this, do that. It's not necessary. So this is a case where you've just got to watch and see and study what the tree needs. So sorry to disappoint you if I did nothing to it, but this tree needs nothing doing to it. I may show you another pine where we may have to look at it and assess it. Now this tree, if I can just spin around, this again is a very old tree. You look at the trunk of that tree. We reckon this tree is well over 100 years old. I imported it from Japan in the year 2000, and look at the size of the trunk. It's in the process of being restyled, and I'm trying to get some bud back. It is very healthy and strong, and unlike most of the other white pines where I do give some winter protection, but because this is in a big heavy pot, it is left out here throughout the winter. And you see how vigorous the candles are, absolutely vigorous. Now in this situation, because I want bud back, I'm probably going to have to take off virtually 70 or 80% of every single candle, certainly the longest one. Usually if you have a cluster of candles, or say in this case 2, one is always more dominant, so you take that off. But even that one, I don't think I could leave because it would become a branch, so I certainly take the tip off. So in virtually all these cases, I'm going to take most of it off, not entirely. So that's a situation where you get 3 candles. The long one is the middle one, take that off, and these I will also take back, and hopefully it'll bud back into the wood. You do get some twigs dying from time to time. So by getting bud back, I can then consider how to restyle the tree. But the main thing to emphasize that because the candles are so strong, the tree is healthy and you can do what you like to it. A word about these flowers. Many people are confused about these pine flowers. I'm not a botanist, but these are clearly flowers and they will scatter pollen in time to come. And there are some dormant cones and they are used for fertilizing the dormant cones which will be formed. So again, if you want to see the flowers and the pollen, leave it, but I would not hesitate to take it out completely. It's not a good idea to remove all the candles all the time. If you look at this one, if I were to do this, that means remove the candle entirely from every single point, it will weaken the tree. Why do we leave some of these to grow? Because they are like leaves, and if you leave some of it to grow, it does strengthen the tree, because the leaves are the food factories for the tree. So you have to leave some candles to grow. You cannot take every single candle off. See, now that one has become so long, almost 2 inches long, far too long. Can you imagine that will become a branch? So I can encourage it to bud back. You see the bud back happening here? That happens. So because there's quite a lot of green, I'm taking 80% of that off, and about the same there, 80% of there. So a big tree like this, I will have to meticulously go through and see how the candles should be dealt with. Each particular candle should be dealt with. So this is how I do this one. This is by no means in an exhibition condition, but should I want to put it in an exhibition, I will have to restyle the tree completely. Let me take you to a Scots pine that we did recently, because that is almost reaching an exhibition stage. Now this is a huge Japanese 5-needle pine. Goyo Matsu means 5-needle pine. Matsu is pine, Goyo is 5. So 5 pine or 5-needle pine. this being grown into a large garden tree, but I can also convert it to a bonsai by selectively introduce layers between different tiers of branches. So I keep growing it tall. You can see what happens here. This new shoot here, all 12 inches of it, this is 12 inches, has taken place in the last, I would say, 3 years. This is this year's growth. Look at this, already 3 inches long. And as Josh pointed out, this new candle already bifurcating there. So in one season, there's one set of candle, another set of candles. So in one season already, on the spring, I've got 2 loads of new candles here. I can't let that keep going on. Because if I've got 4 inches here in a matter of 2 weeks, by the end of the year, it'll be up in the sky. So I have to deal with that. So that was this year's growth in the last 2 weeks. This was from last year. So 2 years I've got about 8 inches or more. And this is 3 years. 3 years I've got a 1 foot. So if I don't want it to keep growing it, I take the top off entirely. And look at the cones on that. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
I think I did mention that I come across someone who said, I won't mention his name, he said that when bonsai pines produce cones, it's a sign that the tree is stressed or is about to die. I have never heard such rubbish. All strong trees will produce cones. So if they produce cones, it is a good sign. Don't be worried. It is not dying. It certainly is not dying. So again, simply look at this situation here. There are so many candles. I can certainly take last year's shoots and this year's shoots all in one go. And then just prune the candles back to shape, back to shape. I will get round to making a layer out of this, but you can see it is so healthy, this tree, as long as I keep it in this shape. Mind you, not everyone likes a very sparse tree. If they grow it in the garden, it's a garden tree. They like trees like this. So I have to cater for their tastes as well. Now let's go and look at the Scots pine. So this is a pine, Scots pine collected one. And this is the front. This was recently rewired by Kevin and friends. So you can see the beautiful shape. But what I want to show you is the candle situation here. Because it's been perfectly shaped in a cone, and very fortunately, some of these more mature pines, they only produce a single candle. There are no multiple candles there. No 4 or 5 candles in one point. So this is a lucky situation. And because I don't want to spoil the shape, I literally go through each candle and take the tips off, maybe half, because if you let it go too long, the shape will be spoiled. So that is how I deal with that, and hopefully this will cause more bud back into the old wood there. So that's how I would deal with it. So if you get a single candle situation, that is very, very lucky. You don't have to worry too much. So maybe just take the tips out. If I like, I can let some of these needles emerge from the candle, because don't forget the candle is going to be a branch. Needles will come from it. So I will let the needles come out to strengthen the tree, because there is relatively little foliage, and if you leave the plant too bare and with no foliage, it will make the tree weak. Now this is getting a bit too long, so I will take half of that off, half of that off, half of that off. But I will let the other half emerge as candles, and hopefully you will get bud back as well. So this is a situation where with old pines like this, you have to deal with it in a more careful way. So I hope you've learned enough from it. Let's have another quick look. Some of these are so prolific with the candles. I literally have to go through with a hedge trimmer almost to take them off. This is a large coconut, about 5 foot tall.
Look at this. Look at that.
Double lot. Okay.